Song for the Imps. How about a song for the Imps? There we go then. Come on, let's get some real lads together. Let's have a good old Imps song, yeah. Okay, yeah, all right. Go on, fellas. Get around the piano. Let's have a good go. Come on, then. You ready? Come on, you lot. Go on, then.
Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Lincoln City are the team, the Reds is their name. Stinsel Bank is their home ground and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you mad, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our...
Booyaka! Morning, everybody. How are we doing? We are on a morning dog walk in the afternoon. So I thought I'd like to get a quick dog walk video in. First of all, it's a fine day up here in the Wolds. I have been into Lincoln today. I've been down to the ground today. I've done the primary school teaching, which was a huge amount of fun, as it always is. I'm sure I've done something there. That was great. Come back up. Dog hasn't been walked. Thought I'll get out. Do you know what? We'll do a quick dog walk video as well, and it will be a relatively quick one. But there's a key discussion point that I want to pick up on, because I think it's caused some people some consternation over the past few days. I've had a couple of messages about player of the season. Now, traditionally, the player of the season is the award voted for by the supporters. It's handed out on the pitch. That's your player of the year. That's the one that seems to be recorded on Wikipedia, so it must be right. And that's genuinely the position that people find themselves in. They normally go, he's the player of the year. Now, in recent years, there's been a tendency to have the awards night as a kind of an open event. And I went to the first one, which I think the first open event was the 2016-17 season. So I went along to that. I went in 2017-18. Can't remember if I went for the one after that. Must have, because Big John, I went for the one with Big John. So maybe I went 3 years in a row. Maybe I went twice with Dad and was invited once. So then I haven't been since. It's been moved to the engine shed. It's more of a corporate thing. So it's more really aimed at the sponsors and the partners, I think. And a table of 10 is quite a lot of money plus VAT. And we were lucky enough to go this year at the Stacey West because we saved up some of our money that comes in through the podcast, and we'd sponsored the club and we'd done a few bits and bobs with that. And I said to the boys, look, shall we put what we get now and over the summer into going to this as a kind of a thank you to those. A thank you to Ben, Charlie and Chris, of course. Nice event, and also it just helps with building a few relationships. So we went along to it this year, and there seems to be an awful lot of player of the year awards, which I'm going to break down in a second. Now, this season, actually, it's not been a bad thing because there are so many players that could have won Player of the Year awards. I'm going to go through the different awards and who won them. And then at some point, somebody's going to go, well, what about X, Y, and Z player? So that's the kind of season that we've had. And at the awards, it actually felt an awful lot like we were celebrating something like promotion. There was a really good vibe. I know we'd just missed out kind of 48 hours earlier and it stung. But I think so many people have seen how well we've done since January and the direction the club's moving in. You know, even with the defeats against Wigan and Portsmouth, we still showed promotion form over those last 20 games or so. And then even with, you know, even if you took out those 3 big wins, because they stand right out at you, but those 3 wins are only 3 games in 17. So actually, I think that there are certain things that stand out that when you look at that run, the big wins and the defeats at the end. But if you take it overall in context, that's the run of a team who, if it had been at the start of the season, you would be saying are going up to the Championship at the end of the season. That's the kind of form that we've shown. And so that in itself leads to a lot of players being touted as a potential player of the season. And, you know, there are, without a doubt, several that could be named. You know, in today's society, not particularly at senior football, but in kids football and boys football, there's a tendency for an everyone gets a medal approach, isn't there? Which I don't subscribe to that particularly. I don't think, you know, getting a medal for taking part, I get it, I understand it, you've got to include all the other kids. Look, I was shit at football, I played for teams, I never got a medal, I was the manager's son, and I didn't get a player of the year, certainly didn't get a leading goal scorer. I got a clubman of the year at one point, of course. So you got what you were earned, you got what you owed, you got what you deserved. So who deserved player of the season? Well, let's strip it back a little bit. So on the pitch after the game, I'm told I didn't actually stay this year for the presentations because I knew I was going the next night, and because it was just a bit of a sting in the tail of the game, I think. So I decided to disappear. But on the pitch, so we have a young player of the year. That's undisputed. Young player of the year, Sean Rowan. Great choice. Could have been up there for player of the season. Could have been, wasn't, but could have been, in my opinion. He was probably knocking around the top 5 for that. Great choice. And the Vic Withers Trophy Player of the Season, Ethan Arahan. Now, for me and for a lot of people, that's the Player of the Year. Whatever comes afterwards, all the other different, that's the Player of the Year, the Ethan Arahan. And by the way, Paul Stalabras says, any merit in the Ethan rumours, or is it just crazy season? I'm not having a go at you, Paul. I'm already sick of hearing completely unsubstantiated rumours about players, about we can't hold into this player or that player. It happens every year. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. It started after Blackpool. George Grant's going, Teo Edden's going. They both did. It started last season. Rahan was going, this player was going, that player was going. Rumours. I love rumours about players coming in, but rumours about players going out are just doom mongers pulling strings, trying desperately to make you think something's going to happen. They've heard an interview on the radio, they turn it into something they think is fact. So I'll pay no more attention to them, and I'll give no more comment. If he goes, he goes. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But it just annoys me when people are talking about players who might leave, particularly ones who are under contract. However, Ethan Arahan won Vic Withers Player of the Season. So in my mind, and in 90% of the minds out there, Ethan Arahan's Player of the Year. Fast forward 24 hours, we're at the engine shed, and it seemed almost at one point like an everybody's got a medal mentality. So Sean Rowan got his Young Player of the Year. There was no arguing with that. The Vic Withers Trophy was not represented. So the Young Player of the Year technically was represented. It was given to Sean Rowan on the pitch. It was given to Sean Rowan at the presentation evening. There was the Partners Player of the Year, which isn't where the players' wives get to vote, which would be quite funny. That could cause some arguments, couldn't it? Especially if you're in Joan Terry's team. Anyway, so Partners Player of the Year, which is where all of the people who have given man of the matches and things like that, the close partners of the club get to vote. Now, I'm not going to be critical of any of these players of the seasons, but I'm going to add context. Club partners are often the ones who give the man of the match out on a match day. Sometimes where it goes man of the match, let's say Jack Burrows, and everyone looks around and goes, is his mum and dad sponsor? And I'm not saying he's had bad games, that was just one player, but where often it's just the goal scorer, it's just this or that. So that's the Partners Player of the Season. That was Lasse Sorensen. Now he won another Player of the Season, the 617 Player of the Season, which again, the 617 Player of the Season isn't just the best player on the field, but they take into account the off the field stuff as well. So there's a little bit more to the 617 one. So Lasse has taken 2 of the Player of the Year, the Partners Player of the Season and I'm already confused, 617 Player of the Season. So Ethan Arahan has taken the Vic Withers Trophy. Ethan Arahan also won Players Player of the Season. So within the squad, there's a vote takes place, and that's the one that a lot of players say that they want to win. Yeah, and I would say Fans Player of the Season is one you expect them to want to win, but the Players Player, the one where everyone you play with goes, you're the best player on the team this season. That's the one you want to win. Now, in my mind, that's a double bubble for Ethan. He's won Player of the Year and Fans Player, and there we go, Player of the Year and Players Player of the Year. So that's really good. Now, someone will have to remind me away Player of the Season. I didn't actually see who got away Player of the Season, which I think is voted for by people on the official team bus. So please forgive me for that. Steve Freeston's on. He's bound to know, and he's bound to tell me. My dog has finished walking already. So there's an away Player of the Season. I think I know who it was. I think it was Lucas Jensen. And Steve's just come on and said, yeah, Jensen, and Lucas. Away Player of the Season's an interesting one. I think it's kind of a travel association thing. There's been a long history for Away Player of the Season. For me, it always seems to be somebody who is just on the fringes of Player of the Season, and Lucas Jensen for me was just on the fringes of Player of the Season. But then he's also won Player of the Season at the Engine Shed. Not the Vic Withers, that's voted for, that's Ethan Arahan. But mysteriously, decided on stats was the way that it was sold to us. So whether that's a Y Scout thing, how you compare a goalkeeper to a striker, I don't know. I mean, Lucas had the highest number of goals prevented of any keeper in the division, more than twice. Whether he's got it for that, I don't know, but he won that as well. So you've got 3 players sharing 6 Player of the Season awards. Lass with 2, Ethan Arahan with 2, Lucas Jensen with 2. And there's a fair argument there, I think, for all of them. Sean Rowan just got 1, but he was presented it twice. Don't know if that counts. Now, it is a little confusing, I think, and there's been 1 or 2 people who have messaged me kind of saying, well, who's the actual Player of the Season? Who do we say Lincoln City's Player of the Season is for 2023-24? Now, there are 2 ways you can do this. The first one, there are 3 ways you can do this. 3. First of all, you can say Ethan Arahan, because in many people's minds, the Vic Withers Trophy is the one. That's where previously all of the other players, all of the other years, that's been the Player of the Year, the one the fans vote for. So if you get Vic Withers your Player of the Year, that's, in my humble opinion, and the humble opinion I would say of many of the other people who are watching this video now, 30 of you, nothing better to do on lunchtime on a Wednesday. Fair play to you, thank you. You could say it's Lucas, because officially he got Lincoln City's Player of the Season. There's no prefix to his. So although it's sponsored by somebody, it's not the one voted for by the fans. It's not the one voted for by the players. It's not the one voted for by the 617. It's not the one voted for by partners. It's Player of the Year. It's worked on stats. We've never worked it out on stats before. My gut feeling is that the official Lincoln City Player of the Season will be Lucas Jensen. There is a third way you can do it. And this way probably is the one that you guys ought to put the most amount of weight behind. Because there is one more outlet that has not named their Player of the Season. There is one branch of popular fan media, I say popular in the loosest possible sense, that have not announced their Player of the Season. That's right. Now, our Player of the Season is probably closest to Vic Withers, in that it takes all of the ratings that you guys put together over the course of the season, works out an average rating, and then as long as you've played a qualifying number of games, which I think is about 30, you can then take the Player of the Season. Obviously, it doesn't allow for somebody to come in January and take the Player of the Season, which in some instances probably is something that would be viable, but it kind of rewards a little bit of longevity as well. Now, whoever wins that is likely to be one of the 3. And Steve Priester said in the Vic Withers, it was Jensen, Sorensen and Arahan. So they certainly seem to be the top 3. So if one of those wins our Player of the Year as well, kind of adds a little bit more weight behind them being the Player of the Year, doesn't it? So I know what you're asking. When's ours going to come out? Well, I now have the rest of the afternoon off, so it could well be today. But the Player of the Season's not the big one. Now, I told Logan back at the training ground a couple of weeks ago that we have another trophy that we put a huge amount of belief in, and that is the Jack Mulhall XG Award. Now, we name it the Jack Mulhall Award because he loves XG. And the XG Award, we work out by taking a player's expected goals, a player's actual goals, and working out the difference. And the more they have scored above their XG, the more likely they are to win the award. The point being that they take more than chances than data suggests they should. So I really like the XG award because it plays into the nerd in me. And I'm hoping that Mr. Ward, now then, might be able to print us up an XG award. We made one for Anthony Scully 2 years ago, which I'm sure takes pride of place on his mantelpiece over his Portsmouth title winning trophy or whatever they get. He's barely played. XG award was all him. So we'll be giving the XG award out. We'll be doing all our end of season awards, and we'll be doing those over the next 24 hours or so. But I just think it's really interesting. And I might be about to have to come offline here because I think there's a tractor coming my way. Hang on. Hang on. No, wait. Whoa. Yep. Hang on. the dog now because there's a tractor in the way. As he comes past, with hand up. So you get, you don't get this on, you don't get that, do you, on normal podcasts. Charlie, come here. 1 second, people, because otherwise he'll run after the tractor. So that's where we are. So player of the season, I'm hoping that's added a little bit of colour. Steve Barton says, surely that only applies to attackers on the XG award. Surprisingly, it doesn't, because defenders who score, let's say, 4 or 5 from headers over the course of a season could easily win it, because attackers tend to have higher XG because they get more chances. So the winner won't necessarily be a striker. I'm not sure who it is, and we did go through it the other day on a chat at the Stacey West lot, and I've actually forgotten it. So there we go. So that's the XG award to look forward to. Player of the year. Deep down, it doesn't matter who's got player of the year. They've all been pretty good. We haven't had many bad players, and the ones that struggled a little bit in some people's eyes, like Ali Smith, have gone out and smashed it at their lone club and come back full of confidence as well. So we're in a good position. But it'll be really interesting to see who gets the XG award. Steve, just to clarify, the XG award isn't how we do player of the year. Player of the year is by the ratings. So the XG award is purely and simply something a bit different. Steve, enjoying lunch break watching. I'm pleased you are, mate. You popped up, so you've reminded me. Anyone that's ordered hoodies or running tops, the order went in for those yesterday. Thank you very much. Pete, yes, you are too late to order a hoodie, as are the 3 people who asked me this morning. So I will open up another window after these ones have come in, but it'll be a nightmare logistically for me to try and start adding them on now. But there will be another window for a hoodie coming up in a week or two. So look, thank you very much for watching. Keep an eye out later on today for the player of the year, the official player of the year, the Stacey West player of the year, the one that matters. Over and out at the Imps.